All right, we're getting ready to start. Good evening and welcome to the regularly scheduled meeting of the Mayor and City Council of the City of College Park. I'm Mayor Bianca Motley Broom. It is 6:01 p.m. and I'm calling the meeting to order at this time because we have a quorum with council members Clay, Karn, and Allen. The first item on our agenda is the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Chaplain Den is handling our invocation this evening.
Good evening, Mayor and Council. Good evening. Let us all pray. Heavenly Father, we thank you that you are a refuge, your fortress, and our God in whom we trust. Thank you for giving your angels charge over us to keep us in all our ways. We pray that the anointing of the Holy Spirit present here change the atmosphere, bringing this council meeting to divine order. We are thankful for our country, the city, the mayor and council, each department head and staff. May your blessings be upon them. Let your blessings overtake them, empowering them and encourage them to do your will. Lord, we pray for the citizens of College Park that you will keep us steadfast in our endeavors to make this a better place to live, work, and play. Keep our hearts focused on the needs of this community and bring solutions as needed. Father, help those who have been devastated by recent tragedies, the families changed by grief and loss. Give them consolation, comfort, and strength. Bless those who have survived and heal their memories of trauma and devastation. Give all of us the courage to face the day ahead. We ask this in the name of the Father, the Son, the Holy Spirit, and according to my faith, in the name of Jesus we pray. Amen.
Amen.
Next, additions, deletions, amendments, and changes to the agenda. Mr. Hawthorne?
Good evening, Mayor. I have one change, and I know Councilman Clay has another, but I'm going to request that item 7D under other business be pulled.
Which one is that?
That is
That's
the
the IGA with Fulton County.
intergovernmental agreement. We haven't heard from Fulton County yet.
Is there something happening with that?
Just some follow-up that's required from the county.
All right.
And Councilman Clay?
Yes, I have one. We had a resignation from the BIDA. McKenzie, Jamel McKenzie resigned from the BIDA. And I have an appointment I want to make. It's Sherry Godfrey. It's only a four-month appointment, but it needs to be filled.
Okay, and so Mr. Hawthorne, where would you like to add that? The BIDA appointment.
What's the question, Mayor?
I'm sorry, I apologize. I wasn't in the microphone. Where would you like to add that BIDA appointment? Or Councilman Clay, either one of you. If any proposals, just where to add it.
Well, I would say just substitute it for the pulled 7D.
All right then. So we have a removal of the initial 7D, that IGA with Fulton County, and we will add appointment of Ward 1 BIDA representative. Is there a motion?
Motion.
Thank you, Councilman Karn. Is there a second?
Second.
Thank you, Councilman Allen. All those in favor?
Aye.
Thank you, gentlemen. That is unanimous. Those changes have been made.
I had an additional item I wanted to add. City Manager, I just wanted to kind of discuss, just in general, some direction. Not particularly for any particular portion of staff that could go into executive session. Just had some comments. They're outside of the scope of our closing comments, more or less.
Where would you like that, sir?
Wherever's convenient.
What is the topic?
I just said.
Pardon?
Guess we
Councilman Carr,
can
can
put
you
it on.
speak into the mic, please?
Oh, I'm sorry.
Thank you.
Essentially, just discussion of more or less city direction in general. It doesn't go into specific staff necessarily, so it's not anything for executive session, but wherever you see fit.
Is it an action item,
No,
Councilman Carr?
no.
Could it come just under council comments?
Well, that's why I'd rather not, because I want to hear from everybody and just kind of think it's something we all should talk
Oh,
about.
you want a discussion, is that what you're saying? So it's not just your, okay, I got it.
Can we put
So-
it, Mayor, at the end of other business?
All right. At the end of other business. Okay, is there a motion?
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
Thank you, Councilman Carn. Well, Councilman Clay made the motion, Councilman Carn made the second. All those in favor?
Aye.
Thank you, gentlemen. That is unanimous. Moving on to meeting minutes.
Yes, I'll move to approve the minutes. I assume we're going to start with regular session minutes.
We can start with the regular session meeting minutes.
Okay.
Yes, sir.
I have one item. My changes that I gave got into both the work session and the regular session, except for one, and that is on a packet, well, it's on page 20 of the regular session minutes. And it's line 892. Infrastructure issues that make it infeasible, I believe, and Chavela looked at it and didn't see infeasible, apparently, but and feasible doesn't make any sense, and infeasible does. And it would be either infeasible or not feasible. So
We'll double check it.
it's okay.
I said we'll double check that.
Yeah, it should be. He's talking about infrastructures that make it infeasible or not feasible. Anyhow, that's the only one of my corrections that didn't get in that I am concerned about, so.
Any other changes to the regular session minutes? Hearing
We're
none.
we're working off this last release that Chavela just put out.
Correct.
Well, I just got something on my desk that I didn't have time to look at, but whatever, if you saw it.
Is there a motion?
So moved.
Thank you, Councilman Clay. Is there a second? Second. Thank you, Councilman Allen. All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstentions? The motion passes unanimously. The workshop session minutes from August 7th. Is there a motion?
So moved.
Thank you, Councilman Clay. Is there a second?
Second.
Thank you, Councilman Carn. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Thank you, gentlemen. That is unanimous. Moving on, we've got citizen remarks. Ms. Ames, can you go over the parameters?
Sure. Folks can either sign in at the podium or submit an email to be on the agenda for citizen remarks. I currently do not have any email remarks, and I'm going to head to the podium to see who signed in. My apologies.
All right.
Okay, my only comment today is from Demetrius Taylor in Embarcadero Club Apartments to discuss small homes being rented.
Hello, everyone. I'm saying that now, so this don't cut into my topic when I walk up here. Greetings, everyone. My name is Demetrius Taylor. I reside at 4826 Embarcadero Lane in the Embarcadero Club Apartments in Ward 2. I have a few notes that I wanted to say, but the main thing that I wanted to get out, the small homes, we have all been raving about the small homes on Garvey Road. And during the development of all of that, that was supposed to be for home ownership. That's what we were told, it was going to guarantee home ownership. However, I just found on a rental site that they're being rented at $2,500.
A month?
Yeah, so.
A month.
A month.
Wow.
Okay, and that there poses a grand old problem because, of course, I'm part of the apartment communities. And one of the things that we constantly talk about is market rate. And when market rates go up, and if somebody could get $2,500 a month for something that's 334 square feet, I'm 700 square feet of a one-bedroom apartment. That means that soon, everybody who's in the apartment complexes are going to have a major rent increase. And that there, I think, goes against what we were talking about with what the small homes were supposed to have been for developing home ownership. Now the word is that developers have bought up all the properties, and now those developers are the ones who are setting rentals. Now, of course, we can't regulate how folks do business, but I thought that within the contracts or whatever, that we made sure that this kind of thing would not happen with those homes. Another thing I want to bring to your attention, the drain at Old National and Sullivan. Y'all know we've had a lot of rain and stuff lately. We're gonna need those drains to be cleaned because it's starting to pool again, and we get a lot of water that pools there and can wreak havoc on the citizens. Another thing that I want to bring to your attention, I know Mr. Hightower was here at the last session. I didn't get a chance to hear his comments. I listened online. I'm usually at work right now, so it's good for me to be here in person. But we know he had a groundbreaking back in November, but looking at the ground, what's being developed, we don't know what's going on. I thought that property should have been up and running by now. So what's going on with that? Is the city ready to reclaim that property? Has he done any due diligence? Has he paid any fees? What's going on with that property? Because I thought we were supposed to be developing his particular new headquarters here in College Park. And my last thing is, I don't know if this is city or if it's state or federal, but y'all know, many of us who drive, we know that the railroads are a little raggedy, you know, and causes a lot of problems. Who fixes those? Do we make a motion to the city? Do the city I don't know how that works, but we need to get on those railroads and make sure that they can at least be leveled off, so that many of us who are driving won't have to pay costly repairs on trying to fix rims and stuff for our tires. So those are my comments today. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
I have no other comments.
If anyone else wishes to speak for 3 minutes, they can approach at this time.
Good evening, Mayor and Council.
Good evening.
My name is Larry Brady Evans. I reside at 2112 West Princeton Avenue, College Park, Georgia. I'd like to greet you all tonight in the greetings of peace and understanding. The last council meeting that I attended here, time ran out and I really didn't get a chance to say what I felt that was going on here. But it still seemed like it's a division. When I pull out my history from growing up here, it seems like Woodward is against College Park High, and College Park High is against Lakeshore. These were rival schools here in this town. A lot of you all probably wouldn't even have a knowledge of that. But for you all to be pulling in that kind of direction, it tears the fabric of College Park loose. And don't seem like we're bonding together again. The people in Ward 1, they seem to be having a problem with Ward 3, Ward 3 having a problem with Ward 4, and Mayor, you in the middle of it. But what I did notice was this. We all here, we hired you all to do a job. And we look very hard to you all's leadership. But there was an incident that occurred where someone wanted to revive a hotel on Old National. And we had the people from Old National to come out and state that they didn't think that would be a good investment for Old National Highway. So the question was asked to the city manager, that the new city manager that we just hired to pay thousands of dollars a year for, you all say, well, hey, we don't have no expertise on that. But the question was asked to him, and he told you all he didn't think it would be good to do. But for some miraculous reason, we still gave those people the go-ahead to do what they wanted to do, and opposed to looking into it because you just hired a professional, and you all say you didn't know what to do. So if we just hiring people just to put them on payroll, I could use a job up here too. So, I mean, not trying to be funny or anything, but this is real. This is real here in College Park, and it's out of order. It's out of order. In this election season, everybody say, vote for me, vote for me. Well, my time is up, but I'll be back.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
If anyone else wishes to speak? Seeing none others, we will move forward with item 6A, which is a motion to set a public hearing date of September 5th, 2023 for a rezoning of property at 1950 Sullivan Road from Business Park to Office Park and allow a kindergarten through 12th grade educational facility. And this is just to set the public hearing. Is there a motion?
So moved.
Thank you, Councilman Allen. Is there a second?
Second.
Thank you, Councilman Clay. All those in favor?
Aye.
Thank you, gentlemen. That is unanimous. Item 6B is a motion to set a public hearing date of September 5th, 2023 for a conditional use permit for an educational facility school at 1950 Sullivan Road. Again, this is just to set that public hearing. Is there a motion?
So moved.
Thank you, Councilman Clay. Is there a second?
Second.
Thank you, Councilman Carn. All those,
Was this?
They're different, Joe.
Okay. I only have one.
There are two of them, and
Okay, it's attached to
one
the,
is to rezone it, and the other is to grant an
it's
exception.
attached to the back of my minutes.
Yeah,
actually.
that's very short.
Okay, I got it.
all those in favor?
Aye.
Thank you, gentlemen. That is unanimous as well. Item 7A is a discussion of the addition of a requirement for a community zoning informational meeting prior to public hearings for zoning matters. Good evening, Ms. Rambo.
Good evening, Mayor, council members. As the mayor stated, you have before you some information about the possibility of the city incorporating a community zoning informational meeting into the public hearing for zoning issues process. You have the brief memo that I wrote, and you also have a proposed text amendment for the zoning ordinance. And at this point, I'd love to get some input from you all.
Thank you, Ms. Rambo. We'll start with Councilman Clay.
Yeah, I'm all for the public being aware of what's going on. The concern I have is that that's the purpose of the public hearing, I thought, for people to come and ask questions, as many as they want. Public hearing goes as long as we want. I know when we talked about the battery farm, we had, some people came up 3 times to question and ask questions about it. So I'm just worried about the bureaucracy of extending the process out. And so why is it necessary to do this in addition to, I should say, not in lieu of, in addition to having the public hearing?
The CZIM gives the public an opportunity to talk directly with the developer. Some jurisdictions are very, I would say, formal with the public hearing. The applicants wouldn't necessarily address the public's questions or comments during the public hearing. I always encourage the applicants to go out and talk to the surrounding applicants.
Right.
Usually, 90% of the time, they do that, because that gives them a chance to find out if there are any issues and work through those issues before they get up here and it becomes a big
Right.
thing.
And that's what we did with the battery farm.
Well, they had
like
gone out and talked to the
2
public.
or 3 minutes, they did house to house.
They did.
And so forth.
So
Okay, that's my own question. I just, it adds, I think it was adding at least another month to the process, depending on the timing.
it would be about a month with advertising and all of that. It would be about a month.
Yeah, and if anything went wrong, then it got delayed, and then you had to go through, what, 3 more advertisings?
It pushes
Which
it
could
back.
add another month or month and a half. That worries me, because we're getting a lot of items that are requiring public hearing. I mean, College Park is moving right along.
We're busy, yes. I guess it just formalizes the process. It makes it a requirement as opposed to a strong suggestion.
What if we were, what if we were to make it, I don't know how you would make it optional, or if people wanted it. People don't know in advance. I don't know. I just worry about how long, because we get a lot of complaints, I think, from people who say the city's hard to do business with, and then they, because we sometimes drag things out. So that's my concern.
Councilman Carn?
I got a few things. Okay, a couple of things I did see on here. Looked into the details of it, packet page 110, the actual boilerplate, is a boilerplate draft for the zoning change, right?
It'll be a text amendment, yes.
All right, yeah, packet page 110, section 1, which is on line 30, section 1C, down to line 42. Notice of the CZIM shall be given simultaneously at least 7 days, but not more than 45 days prior to the date of Planning Commission public hearing. Why are we stretching it all the way out to 45 days and it's adding on at least a month? Why can't we have it in between the time and cut our time significantly if we're going to do something like this?
Section C specifically refers to the notice, like the letter that goes out, the letters, the ad, and the sign. We're just saying that you can't tell the you have to give the public at least 7 days, but no more than 45 days, and that's pretty standard. We have, that's what's already in the ordinance.
Well, the notice and the letters, that's what delays it and stretches it out another month, right? That's a part of what stretches it, is that right?
You have to, actually, it's 15 days. The public has to have at least 15 days for the public hearing. We're saying for the CZIM, they need to have at least 7 days notice.
So is that a yes, that this is part of what stretches it out an additional month?
This would stretch it out.
Okay, that's what I thought it was. But why do we have, if we can shorten that window possibly, we can set, there's no set deadlines for this. We can set the time where it won't extend the zoning process an additional month if we so choose to, right?
Not really. I still have to advertise for the meeting.
Okay. The meeting, the CZIM, and then another advertising for the actual hearing here.
For the Planning Commission and then Mayor and Council.
Is there any way to combine either one of those? We can't combine one with the other or shorten this window up some kind of a way?
I mean, if you combine them, you don't really need to,
All right.
you
Well,
don't really need to hold a separate meeting.
And here's my other suggestion. I mean, there's a good and bad side to it. If you're having a community zoning meeting, I guess it's a good thing in one sense because, it may save us some time and money with something that's going to be a whole lot of trouble. A lot of times people will come and they'll say at the hearing here that, like they did at the last one, they didn't get the notice, didn't know about it, they didn't hear about it until that night. One of my suggestions would be a kind of a compromise. And I would say, well, two things I would do if we looked at doing this. We could do it another way where Councilman Clay mentioned, he touched on optional in a sense. It could be a hybrid. Theoretically, we could add that to your evaluation matrix, whether or not the developer chose to have a community meeting. And in addition to that, if we're going to do that, you want to have a community zoning information meeting. It needs to be nearby the area that you are considering rezoning. In other words, if you're rezoning wherever you are, City Hall may not be convenient for folks that don't come regularly. You also additionally have folks that may not live in the city. For example, at the last council meeting. But if you have it nearby, it's a big help to the residents, and they feel like they were considered. So, in other words, if the developer chooses to do that, I think if you add it to your evaluation process, when it comes to the planning commission, they can get a full understanding of whether that developer is really interested in reaching out to the community and that they took the time and care to do it. I think that would also help to influence whether or not the planning commission considered this developer worthy of even coming into the city. So and maybe maybe you factor in additional points for whether or not they took the initiative to do what would seem like common sense. Reach out to the community first. But I'm not against doing it. I'm just against the additional delay. But you got to hear from the residents. I mean, you want to hear from the residents. We have it up here, but we don't have to have them up here, community. But community meetings, I think you want to have in the actual community, and that means a little bit closer to the surrounding property that you're considering. So I'd like to look at that, since this is just discussion, right?
Yes, sir.
Well, let's see if we can come up with something along those lines where if a developer's got any sense, they'll do it themselves and invite the locals there. If they want to invite city officials there, I think that way the residents feel more involved in that. We bother to come to their doorstep. You follow what I mean?
Yes.
All right.
Councilman Allen?
I just think that you're adding another step in the process. If you have your community meeting, you're going to have to put a sign out there. And then if we decided to have a meeting here in council for everybody, you're going to have to put out a different type of sign, not a community service sign, but another sign. So I think you're just lengthening the process. If the builder or the person that's developing the project would like to have a community meeting, I think that's on them. Let them have a community meeting and let them have it in another location, and hear what they have, and then let us have a meeting. And if we want to have a meeting and set up a public hearing, we can do that. I just think you're adding another process.
Councilman Gay?
Ms. Ramo, good evening. I kind of appreciate you bringing it, because if you look at the meeting the other night with the battery storage, maybe if a meeting could have taken place, we could have, I don't know, but maybe we could have saved some time. But I have a question. Is this what you want to propose? Does this take the place of the zoning hearing where the public comes to? Because the ones I've seen my community come to, I bring them to the planning and zoning. Would that take the place of that one?
No, sir.
You would still want that one?
We'll still have to do the planning commission public hearing, and we'll still have to do the mayor and city council public hearing.
I see.
Any follow-up, Councilman Clay? Councilman Carn?
So Angela, you're the city planner. I guess if we were to do something along those lines that I was suggesting, when you bring this finally to the BZA board or the planning commission, would you be more or less inclined to recommend approval based on if that particular developer decided and took the initiative to hold a community meeting or not?
I don't think I'd be swayed necessarily by whether or not the developer held a meeting. If the ordinance has a set of criteria that I have to go by, so I go by those criteria. If I have been getting calls or emails or visits from the public, I will use that information in my analysis, but not necessarily did the applicant talk to the, hold a meeting with the community.
Well, the whole thing we're talking about is additional criteria. I guess that's what this is. But I think it would be very important and material whether or not that developer had the sense to reach out to the community for something they wanted to do, because at the end of the day, they're getting approval not only from the first community board, which would be the Board of Zoning and Appeals, which are just citizens. Then when it finally comes to us for approval, and we're just citizens. So could you factor that into your criteria?
I'd have to add that to the zoning ordinance. It's not so much, for me, it's not so much did the applicant go knock on doors, is whether or not issues came up as the result of that interaction with the community. As I said, most of the applicants do that. Most of them go talk to the community in some way or form. So it's whether or not, and they come back and tell me, or again, the public will come back and say, hey, we're really worried about X, Y, and Z. And that's what I factor into my staff report.
Well, that's not what I've seen, not since I've been back up here. But it makes a difference if they bother to knock on doors.
It does.
Now, they don't have to knock on every door. You just said it really doesn't make a difference to you or not.
The issues that come up make a difference.
Well, the issues come up from the knocking on the doors, from the initiative of the community meeting. That's how you get to issues. You can't have issues if the neighborhood surrounding the piece of property wasn't aware of what's going on. Thus, the whole purpose of having the community meeting with the developer first, I think that would make a big difference. I think the community would appreciate it, whether they're for it or against it. Now, to me, it makes sense. You know, maybe I'm the only one up here that it makes sense to look at doing. I know if I were a developer, I would be smart enough to have a community meeting first with the community, to take the temperature, make some adjustments and changes, because I know if the residents are against it, by the time it gets up here to us, we may be inclined to be against it because we're all just residents. So let's just think about, you know, if we can add it in the criteria and save a step, and if the developer did it themselves, that way we could, it may help us weed out the good projects from the bad projects, maybe.
Councilman Allen?
No, the only thing I have to say is that I just think it's you just kind of adding on to the public hearing. When you have a public hearing and it's put out there to everybody and they understand, they can come up like they did last meeting and express their opinions. So I think you're just adding another step. So that's my comments.
Anything else, Councilman Gay?
No comments.
All right. Ms. Rambo, I appreciate you bringing this forth. I know that I initiated this conversation after talking with some of our residents about their concerns and getting notice for public hearings and just an overall desire to make sure that the community was engaged. And I'm glad that the body has had the conversation. It does not sound to me like there is consensus on moving forward on codifying that within the requirements, but perhaps there's some tweaking to be done to see if we can strongly encourage it even more.
Sure.
Well,
Thank you so much.
I think there is consensus to look at incorporating it where we wouldn't have to have an additional meeting. I think there's some consensus there.
I think I just said that, but Thank you, Ms. Rambo. Appreciate your time.
I thought you
Thank
said
you.
there wasn't consensus.
There
I
was
thought
not
that's what I
consensus
heard.
to codify.
Understood, but was there any consensus to combine it, like I had suggested, that way it's not an additional meeting?
I think Ms. Rambo's going to go back and take another look.
All right.
The next item on the agenda is item 7B, which is a motion to install College Park historical markers for business and residential places of distinction located in the 6 West Development and the Old Ward 2 community at an estimated cost of $12,500. Good evening, Ms. Johnson.
Good evening, Mayor and Council. Good evening. So we're here to talk about the College Park historical markers, something we've been kind of talking about since about January. So we wanted to bring together some information. I've got Chad Keller here along with Sarah Dola. I can't get it out today, sorry. That's got some presentation, just some overview of what we're looking at, and then we can answer some questions and see what we can do to move forward with this project. I'll turn it over to Sarah.
Hi, can you hear me? Hi, everyone. Thanks for having me tonight. My name is Sarah Dilla. I'm a public history professional who's worked in some different organizations throughout Atlanta and outside of the city. I'm here tonight with Chad Keller from the GSU Heritage Preservation Program and members of the City of College Park staff that we've been working with in partnership with Ms. Abdullah and Ms. Hightower of POA Historical Organization to kind of think through how to bring this project to fruition. I understand you all have been talking about it for longer than I've been involved, but we started having several meetings about it as a full group at the beginning of the summer to think through what it would mean, what this trail of historical markers would look like in College Park and how we would approach doing this project. And so just a couple of goals to give you a little bit of background. We have talked through how the intent here would be to elevate College Park's African heritage, especially in the neighborhood of Ward 2 and the specific stories of several sites in that neighborhood. And after our conversations throughout the summer, we have decided to approach this project and propose to you to approach this project in phases. And that's for a couple key reasons, mainly because the neighborhood in question, as this history would be both in conjunction with the advancing development plans in that area, that pushing this forward in phases would help us mitigate some of the uncertainty of the sites. When you're thinking about historical markers, it would be pretty critical to think through where we would put it for the long term. So doing this in phases would help us with that kind of considering the best place for those locations. Also, the phases would help us raise awareness for this project as we can kind of stretch it out a bit more intentionally and get it in front of the public's eyes in some different ways to get some people really knowing about what the city and what some of these history holders locally are trying to do. And then also give us some time to expand on what POA has assembled and the histories that they have kept in narratives and collected in narratives, and potentially that allows the project to come to fruition with more than just the 10 sites they have currently, or having those 10 sites be presented in more depth. So I think on the next slide, I have just a few slides to talk through what those phases look like, and I'll try to be very brief. Basically, we're presenting here this funding for what we're calling phase 1, which would be a temporary project of a signage installation rather than do those permanent signs like you would see on any historical trail along walking site to site. Doing a single site in a more temporary installation that would be a bit more cost effective and a bit of a space where we can present more about the project, present the sites as a whole on the map, and draw that attention in a central location. So this is just kind of some of our notes from conversation about sketching out what that phase would look like. It would begin with temporary signage that would have a research phase first, working in partnership with Georgia State or student researchers in the field of public history, having them partner with POA and have some community engagements to promote the project and collect more history. The next slide here, I think, talks about how, as we've been discussing what that looks like, a temporary location for signage that came up was the depot structure here, as gets a lot of foot traffic from restaurants and downtown businesses, and would be kind of an under shelter, obvious location for some signage that could call attention to the project and present the history in this initial phase before creating and installing the traditional markers. And then, so this is just a couple slides to give you a sense of the larger context that this would fit into. Is it would be a starting point for a second phase of work that would create those more site-specific installations, and that would be dependent on other timelines of development in the area and dependent on the research and community engagement, the results of those in phase one. So we could build out the narratives a bit more, and then think a little bit more with that development in the city of what this looked like if we wanted it to be those traditional types of national park signs, I always call them, with the angled top, or if it's something more creative that allows people to sit and kind of walk through. So I think I've given a few images just for some high level. Here's some things that inspired us of thinking about temporary signage. So you can see this around, even on the Beltline sometimes, there are temporary art installations where signs are just kind of placed up for different stories to tell that can change over in a few months or even a few years, but not that kind of longevity of a decades-long installation. And then our phase two, just a couple of images to make sure that you all are able to see some things that we're talking about. So, did I do okay? All right.
So our proposal is for the phase one for $12,500. And again, that would be the temporary signage. We would still work as a committee on, with research, reaching outreach with the community to see if there's any other sites for future that we might want to look at. And reason for temporary is because 6 West is not completed. So we didn't really, as the committee, with Ms. Hightower and Ms. Abdullah, that input was to, we want to give homage, but we don't want it to be somewhere that somebody's not going to see those areas and that signage until the completion of 6 West. Also, we talked about also having a website so that information could be out for people could see it immediately while we're still in the process. But Tasha is here. She's got some grant funding with community outreach with the Brownsfield grant, which would be helpful because right now this was not something that we had originally funded, that we could do phase one and work into phase two for next year's budget to finish out the project. Or as 6 West gets done, we can get those permanent signs in place. So with that, if there's any questions.
Thank you, Ms. Johnson. Councilman Clay?
Yeah, Michelle, you probably have an idea of what some of my questions might be. I already asked you the primary one, but I've been thinking about it since that. So we had, I thought, pretty much approved going forward with Kennesaw on this.
So from my understanding, when I came in, it was a little delay with getting in with Kennesaw, and they referred us to Chad Keller to move forward if we wanted to move forward on that time. So it was basic timing on us getting in for them.
So you're saying Kennesaw couldn't do it when we wanted to do it?
Well, I think they'd already moved forward on a project. I think it was a number of people, and maybe Chad can you...
I think I can probably shed a little bit of light on that, Councilman Clay. We had some back and forth over some contractual issues with Kennesaw State, and so the length of time that discussion took had Kennesaw State entering into other projects. So we got kind of pushed back on their timeline, but they said they referred us to Georgia State saying that they might be able to handle it.
Okay,
faster.
So since we put a lot of time into the agreement, for example, with Kennesaw, I think I flagged some things myself in that agreement. And so my question is, I don't have an agreement to review. So how do you know that I'm not going to find problems with whatever agreement we have here?
Yeah, I'm not aware of the Kennesaw agreement, so I'm not quite sure.
You're not? How can that?
You did we fill them in on what you got? You got this information from someone else?
The Kennesaw State Agreement was back and forth between Mr. Denmark and Kennesaw State.
Well, okay, guys, look. I thought we were moving ahead on that project. We had some issues with ownership, copyright, et cetera, in the agreement. I don't have it in front of me, and I didn't try to dig it up. But I remember I had some issues with it. We had to get them cleared up. Then all of a sudden, Kennesaw disappears, and GSU comes in, and this is not a complaint against GSU, okay? But I'm just trying to figure out, we had actual costs for Kennesaw, as I recall the program. I don't recall that there were temporary installations in that program, which maybe temporary installation is a good thing. And I have no idea how the cost of this program compares with the cost of that program. It seems to me the total cost of that program was maybe $15,000, $20,000. I don't remember it exactly. So I guess the first thing that comes to my mind is, okay, so we're going with somebody else, that's great. How does this differ from what we already spent a whole bunch of time on, at least I did, with Kennesaw? Is there a contract with GSU?
No, we were looking at just research and doing temporary signage. That's all we were looking at for phase one.
So, but we got into things with Kennesaw like, well, how badly will these fade in the sun? Will they peel? What happens if they peel? Et cetera, et cetera. And we're talking about doing this, and we haven't had any kind of discussion like that.
Yeah, so I think that was for the temporary situation. We were just looking for for the permanent with Kennesaw. All we're trying to do is get the research, get all the information together, and do something temporary until we can decide what we're going to do for them.
Okay, so then what that brings to me is, so we do the temporary, then presumably we're going to at some point go and do the permanent, right? That we saw some pictures of that tonight. So when we go to do the permanent, are we going to have problems with the contract like we had problems with Kennesaw, and which won't come up during the point of doing the temporary, and we will have spent time doing the temporary and figuring things out, and then say, oh gee, we don't like the contract. So, and the other thing that comes to mind is that it sounds to me like this is going to be more expensive. So I don't think, I'm just speaking for myself, that we just want temporary signage. I think, don't get me wrong, I think it's a great idea to put the temporary signage out there and see how people react to it, et cetera, et cetera. And maybe it's a better plan, but it's going to be longer, and it probably is going to be more costly. So I would like some feeling of, when all is said and done, to get us to the same spot that we thought we were getting to with Kennesaw, how much is it going to cost? Because if it's going to cost a whole bunch more, then maybe I don't want to start with the temporary until I know what the overall cost is. Those are my questions.
All right, Councilman Card.
Thank y'all for coming out. I gave Mrs. Gloria Abdullah a call earlier today and just checked with her on this, and she's on board. So I'm glad you all did your community outreach first, kind of like the last agenda item, more or less. I guess the one thing, and I understand where Ambrose is coming from, why don't we make it where if we go along with this phase one temporary signage project, that it doesn't obligate us to go forward with them necessarily into phase two. That way we can see how it's working, and that way we have an option if it's some bumps in the road with temp signs, then maybe that's not the group, but we get the ball rolling with the temp signs, but make sure that contract does not lock us in to a phase two necessarily. They need to all be our options, whether or not we want to go forward with this outfit, or we can go forward with another outfit. And that way, we're not obligated, because we don't know what it's going to cost ultimately. I see the $27,000 number here for the whole thing.
But it depends on the type of signage that we do choose. And that's part of the research that we wanted to get the community in, look at what those markers are, because they've chosen 10 markers, and we needed to make sure that we get community outreach, that there might be pictures or something else that's out there in the community, and then we look at that signage. And I myself, the same thing, want to make sure I've gone up to some of the markers, and you do see they're faded, they're cracked. So we want to make sure what we're going to get is going to make and last. But that would not be this phase. This is just basically the research.
I'm okay with it with those stipulations. You understand what I'm asking?
Yeah.
We're not
There
locked
were
in
no
to an
obligation
outfit.
to go into phase two.
Yeah. But yeah, we need to do it, and whatever it's going to cost. I mean, I think it's going to be worthwhile. But I heard a number of 60,000 or so with the guy that came in here at one time. He said it could be up to such and such, depending on how many markers or whatever. So, but I think this will get the ball rolling. So, yeah.
Councilman Allen?
First of all, thank you again. Thank you for coming here. I think it's a great, great project. I worry about the temporary without having a contract, and I think Councilman Carnes, that was a pretty good suggestion where we can not obligate ourselves, onto the other. So, I'd hate to do the temporary and then all of a sudden we decide, no, this is really not what we want, not what the community wants. But if we just do the temporary and it kind of gives us an idea, that might further it along. So I think it's a great project. I think we need to do it. I just wish we had some timelines and some numbers, how much it would cost as we went along. So, and they might develop as we do this.
Okay, so they do have the breakdown, what they're estimating of the cost for the signage. So again, that will depend with the research, also with the consultant management, and then, depending on what that temporary sign is and how big. So estimated is what we're looking at, is that 12.5.
Okay, and I might like a certain type of sign or but it's the community, that community that was there, that's the Larry and your folks, I think, that's the ones that I think make the big difference in this.
So that is definitely part of this phase, is the community involvement. Absolutely going to reach out and make sure that we are getting input from the community.
Councilman Gay?
I just had a couple quick questions. How much money is available from the Brownfields Community Grant?
So it's to be determined by the type of services that are requested through the community outreach. So right now, we are looking at the discussion had tonight to see if a consultant would be necessary, an additional consultant, or some contractor under Stantec, or is this something that staff would be able to assist with? So the discussion today will help provide that number.
Well, what's the range? What's available in there?
For Brownfield, we agree to pay 20% back, or that we will receive 20% back. So there is not a cost range currently of how much could be spent, but that is how much we would be able to receive in return.
You just said you get a 20% reimbursement?
We pay 20%, we get an 80% reimbursement. So right now, we're taking in the discussion from mayor and council so that we can determine what type of contract and services would be needed through Brownfield.
So they'll pay 80%?
Yes, sir.
Of the project cost? So
Of the community outreach cost.
So if it's $100,000, they'll pay 80%?
Correct. And then we'll pay the 20.
And then my second question is, look, I 1,000% support, identifying historic spaces in Ward 2. But I do want to say that you have a fee for meeting. You know, we had a historical society across the street, of which I actually, believe it or not, I'm a member. Not active, need to be rectimated, but I'm a member, and my neighbor, she was on that committee. All I want to say is that that's part of College Park history. I don't have a problem with bringing that group, Mr. Abdullah and all them over there, and merge some of that history, because I don't want to I don't want to separate us as a city. History is history is history. And then the third thing I want to say is that, and maybe this will come in phase 2, but there's some other historic sites that are not just in 6 West, and 6 West is under development, so we don't know eventually what will be, what will be developed. I get the Price Barbershop or Larry's house. We need to put a marker by his house. But I just say, it sounds like to me it's too soon to know exactly where all those sites will be identified that are not there. And then we just need to look at, in my opinion, some other parts of the city as well, other than just Ward 2. I mean, there's a cemetery over there was that Ward 1? Then there's the Catherine Mitchell School across Camp Creek. There's a lot of history spots around here that we may want to look at identifying.
Absolutely. Yeah, so this was just something to start with the Ward 2, based on the Price Barber shop and the house there, and then the 10 identified. But absolutely, we want to recognize anything in the city for the future. If that's something we expand on the program, we would do so.
Councilman Clay, any follow-up?
Yeah, I actually have the reverse problem of what Councilman Carn and Councilman Allen have. Maybe I didn't make that clear. I'm concerned that we go through the temporary signage. We love it. The community loves it. It's fantastic. We want to do it. Then we look at the contract and we find that we have no rights to the material, that it can be used by anybody, but we can't control it, et cetera, et cetera. Some of the issues, the legal issues that we had in the contract with Kennesaw. And so the problem I have is, as I say, the reverse. I'm concerned that we won't be able to be bound by the contract because we won't like the contract, rather than the contract will have been sucked in to do the whole project after the immediate introduction to the product with the temporary signs. That's my concern.
Councilman Carn?
Good point. So you're hearing this, right? Let's make sure that type of stuff's not able to happen. That whoever we decide to go with, if we do this, we have the full rights to our history and our markers.
Amen.
And our sites and the structures and everything else, the language, the text, and we can copyright it, we own it, so on and so forth. So, yeah.
Councilman Allen?
I think we're all talking the same thing. We're all for it. It's just making sure that we have the contract that we need. So the money part, this is something that the city needs to do no matter what the cost. I think we can work that out somehow, whether it be the grant or whether we raise the money another way or we find another source for the money. But it's just something we need to do.
Councilman Gay?
No comments.
Is there a motion?
Motion. One thing I will say, Michelle, this is what you call contractually, in terms of the publishing world, because I do have publishing. It's called a work for hire contract. You following me? So that's kind of what we're looking for. No ownership rights to the party that's doing the work.
Sir, what is your motion?
And I'll second his motion.
There hasn't been a motion stated.
Oh, I thought he
I made a motion
What is your motion?
to move forward.
Okay.
And I will second that motion. Do you, Councilman Carn, do you wish to include the proviso that when we do see the contract, that we do have the rights that we need to have
Absolutely.
Okay, so would you care to amend your motion?
I will accept that friendly amendment.
And I will second that friendly amendment.
Madam Clerk, are you clear on the motion?
My motion is Councilman Carn and Councilman Clay proviso that the contract, once submitted, gives the rights to the city of College Park.
Councilman Carn, is that
Close enough.
that's close enough? Okay.
Close enough.
Yeah. You understand what we're looking for?
I'll get with
All right.
Mr. Denmark.
Any further discussion? Hearing none, we'll move to a vote. All those in favor?
Aye.
All right.
Thank you, gentlemen. That is unanimous.
Thank you.
The next item on the agenda is item 7C, a motion to accept $5,000 from CleanSpark for activities in the Southside Corridor. Is there a motion?
So moved.
Thank you, Councilman Clay. Is there a second?
Second.
Thank you, Councilman Carn. All those in favor?
Aye.
Thank you, gentlemen. That is unanimous.
One-
Can
one-
I make a comment?
I had one thing too.
You know, this is something that we need in College Park. I mean, when I go out to that area, and we have a lot of people that would like to walk around the trees around the Tracy Wyatt Center, and we're talking about $5,000. How much, and the question, how much money would it cost to do the whole thing?
So initially, the trail was quoted at $12,000 even for the city. Since then, the quote was received in 2021. Since then, there has been an increase to $14,000 for materials, as well as an additional $14,500 for staff labor to be able to construct the project.
So we're talking about how much over this 5,000?
So we received a total of $12,000. This $5,000 is specifically for activities to support the Southside Corridor. So currently, 14 plus, so 28,500 minus 12, so it leaves $16,500 needed to finalize this project.
I'd like to make a motion that we find the $16,000 to go ahead and finish this project rather than waiting on grants and searching, and let's finish it. We can find that money hopefully somewhere.
Is there a second?
CleanSpark is doing.
Wait, hold on. There's a motion on the floor. Is there a second?
Second.
Thank you, Councilman Clay. Discussion. Go ahead, Councilman Carn.
So I'm trying to find my piece. So CleanSpark's commitment is the 5.
Yes, sir. They've made an original commitment of $12,000 towards the Godby Road walking trail. The $5,000 additional donation is specifically for community development events within the Southside Corridor. Events or to support, such as the trunk or treat, or to support the senior social, different events.
Okay, so they committed to 12, and they want to put 5 towards the walking trail. That's what you're saying.
They committed to $12,000 towards the walking trail, and they have committed $5,000 to assist in the events within the Southside Corridor. So the answer is just 12.
Okay, all right. And we want to just up it to 16, you're saying?
Up to 16,000 from the city if we need to go ahead and finish this project. I mean,
Can we finish the trail with the money they gave us?
No,
With the
sir.
12?
It would cost $28,500.
Okay, and that's
And
what
they've
it's-
given us a donation of $12,000.
And that's what we need the additional 16 for. So that additional money won't go towards trunk or treat, and it won't go towards the other events. Is that right?
The $5,000 that you all just voted for,
Can we get the sound together?
I think Mr. Curry's trying to work on it.
Okay. Maybe just back up a little bit, maybe, I don't know. We got the taller mic, so I think we're good there, but maybe you don't have to be as close up on it. I don't know.
the $5,000 that was donated, this is to support ongoing activities within the corridor. So we only have a $12,000 donation currently from CleanSpark. We need the additional $16,500 to be able to build the trail itself because of the increase of materials, as well as we don't currently have the staff, which was initially planned to do it. We don't have the staff available currently. So we would need to contract it.
What are we going to get for this?
Councilman Carney, you have
That's a
requested
good
bids?
question.
May I ask a question? Mayor?
I was circling back to you. Yes, sir.
Okay. So, maybe a misunderstanding. I was under the impression we'd gotten 5,000 and we needed more to finish the project. So somebody had given us a grant. That's why I supported the motion. If we add the amount of money, which sounds like it's about $16,000?
Yes, sir.
Okay. If we add $16,000 to it, what will we end up with? What is the total package that we are buying for 16 plus 5 is $21,000?
Yes, sir. The fully completed walking trail. So that would be all of the materials as well as the benches, the beautification, and additionally the staff to be able to create the trail. So we would be able to hire the
And this is the trail around right next to the Godby Rec Center,
Yes, sir.
right?
Yes, sir.
I mean, Tracy White Rec Center.
Yes, sir.
Okay, that's where I thought we were going.
Yeah.
Okay, hold on, gentlemen, hold on. Councilman Allen hasn't had an opportunity to speak on discussion on this motion, so go right ahead, Councilman
You
Allen.
know, we've talked about this. I see parents out there with their kids in the playground or their kids inside the gym working out, or volleyball or basketball. I see a lot of parents out there just sitting that would love to walk on this trail. And for $16,000, we ought to be able to come up with that so these people can get out there and get some exercise while their kids are in our programs. You know, and you know, yeah, we could delay it, and we could delay it again until we could come up with the money. We just need to go ahead and get this finished, even if we have to come up with the $16,000 ourselves. That's my.
Councilman Gay?
Well, my only question is, I don't think we should come up here and do, I don't have a problem with the trail, Ken. I think it's a great trail. But my thing is, we got other people that want things to be paid for, and if we just come with friendly emotions, I mean, we have a budget process. That's number one. And so I want to be respectful to the process. You know, I need some street stripe. We need to find money for some other projects. So I just think we out of order when it comes to let's just find the money. It don't work like that. It's a process. That's my comments.
Thank you, sir. Councilman Clay?
I think the city
Oh,
manager.
I apologize. Go
The city manager hand is up.
Mr. Hawthorne?
Mayor, even before Councilman Gay made his comments, I was thinking along the same lines. I don't think we want to fall into a habit of, see a project here and let's just do it in the moment. And I'm not questioning the validity of the project. Obviously, this is something that's been in the works. But you do have a process that you already allowed for that's coming in just a matter of a few weeks, and I'm going to be talking about it more when we get to my report this evening. So I would suggest one of two things. Positive motion to rest with the budget consideration when you're considering other budget priorities, including items that have previously been identified on what you called your wish list, and maybe this one is already on the wish list, I don't know. If you want to proceed with the motion, then I would encourage you to identify the funding source, and I don't know what the finance director would say if she was asked the question, but I would say that you would specifically be saying to take it from fund balance. And then I think that gives you some basis because you've got a policy on fund balance. I think fund balance is fine, but I think it gives the direction to the staff. So the first choice, my recommendation, make it a part of the other priorities that you're going to be considering in just a few weeks, or to move ahead with the motion with the caveat that we take it from fund balance.
Thank you, sir.
Okay.
Councilman Allen?
I'd let me withdraw my motion then, and let's add it to the list later on.
All right. Okay. Thank you, Ms. Hall Garrison. Appreciate it. Item 7D listed by, hold on a second.
Yeah, we still don't have item.
It's not aligning, that's why.
We don't have agenda item numbers on our,
Yeah, they're not on the packets
on,
anymore.
in the packet.
Yeah.
Well,
The lead-in sheet that says to, from, date, title, recommendation, that does not have, under this new system that we're using, does not have the agenda item number like we used to have. And that's why it gets confusing every time,
That's
at least
not why
I look at it.
That's not why I'm confused, sir.
Well-
Because item 7D says on the screen, it's a contract with Moody's Garage. On the agenda, it's listed as the IGA. And so we are on to 7D.
Well-
And 7D.
We are. We changed it because we got the email about removing it from the agenda, so
I
we
see.
changed it early on,
Okay,
just to reflect it on the screen so everyone can follow along that way.
But,
I understand.
Yeah.
but I think the issue is, and I had a little bit of discussion on this before we went to the next deal. City manager, yeah, the issue is that it's not on our packets. We have a doc ID number, which I can't follow, which doesn't correspond with anything that I have. So this needs to say 7C, so that I can follow and know I'm pulling up 7C like we used to have.
We'll ensure that it's on the next packet.
Yeah, let's make sure they're on all the packets, just like they used to be, so we add
It won't
that.
be like it used to be, it'll be bigger.
Oh, that's good. That's good for my eyes. And in reference to 7D, I just want to make sure, I know that's off the agenda. I want it to be clear, Angela, you were saying that this is off of the agenda because something that Fulton County did not have that caused this delay. I just want to make sure that we're clear for the record, that it's not College Park's delay.
Yes, sir. There's a section in the IGA where Fulton County fills in all the particulars about what they're going to do as part of this partnership, and we're just waiting for them.
And they didn't turn that into us. I
They
just
have
want to
not
make sure.
given that back to us
Okay,
yet.
I just want to make sure it's clear for the record, because one of the things we talked about with the commissioners was that College Park would not be the side that would be slowing this project up. Okay, I just want to make that clear for the record. Got it.
Item 7D is an appointment to the Business and Industrial Development Authority for the Ward 1 representative. Is there a motion to approve Sherry Godfrey?
So moved.
Thank you, Councilman Clay. Is there a second?
Second.
Thank you, Councilman Carn. Any discussion? Councilman Clay?
No, I just, I want to thank Jamel for all the time she's put in on BIDA, and I don't know whether she's qualified yet, but I understand she's running for Ward 1, and we appreciate everything she's done, but we need, at this point, to have a full BIDA. There's too many things going on in the city, and I also appreciate the fact that I had several candidates, and I will be talking further about the vacancy that moving Sherry from the DMO. She is my DMO rep right now, and she'll be moving to the BIDA rep position, which will create a vacancy on the DMO. And I need to fill that as well, but I'm not doing that tonight.
Yeah.
Councilman Carn?
Ambrose, I would say, whoever you want is, fine. I think I looked in some of our policies and procedures, and it said that we can appoint board members to our prospective boards, and you can appoint one board member to a maximum of 2 individual boards. If I read that correctly somewhere or another.
I don't think that's correct, Joe.
It's 2 consecutive terms.
I thought I saw that, but City Attorney, I don't know if.
It'd be nice if it were, maybe, in this particular
Two
case.
consecutive terms.
I thought I read that somewhere, but maybe I read it wrong. All right.
Anything, Councilman Allen?
No, I think,
Councilman Gay?
Do we have a motion on this?
Yes, sir.
Second?
No, there has been a second as well.
Oh,
Discussion.
This is just discussion.
no.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstentions? The motion passes unanimously. Item 7E is a motion to renew the fleet contract with Moody's Garage for the fiscal year July 1st, 2023 to June 30th, 2024. Is there a motion?
I'll make, this is Moody's, right?
Correct.
I found some issues with the contract.
Okay. Is there a motion?
And Mr. Moody got back, our Mr. Moody, Mr. Moody got back, and I think that straightened out my issue. It's a contractual issue. We had two paragraphs that said exactly the same thing. One of them was for transporting more than 7 miles, and the other one was for 7 miles. And all we needed to do was change that so it says more than 7 miles. And you did that. Between you and I think we worked out some wording. So if we're going to approve it, if I were to move or vote on it, I would say it's okay as long as we make those changes. Now, do you guys want to see it come back, or do you want to just approve it tonight and understand that those changes are going to be made?
Well, that's just a kind of an admin change, you know.
Yeah.
I had a couple of questions, though.
Okay. Hold on 1 second. Is there a motion?
I'll make the motion.
Okay.
Second.
Thank you, Councilman Clay on the motion, Councilman Gay on the second. All right.
With those changes.
All right, yes, sir, with the changes in regard to the 7 miles or more. So, Councilman Carn?
Well, Emmanuel, I'm glad to see you up here. I'm assuming you're kind of caught up in the loop on what's going on with the Moody's.
I have the contract out.
All right. Obviously, I think we need to re-up. It's time. Hugh Richardson, how we looking down there?
Referring to the work site?
Yeah.
Yeah, it's fine. We've had some issues with some vehicles and everything. So far, so good.
Okay. So we got all the other stuff straightened out earlier this year, right?
I think so, yeah.
Kevin, we good? All right, because I know we had some issues, so we got all that squared away. All right, okay. All right.
Councilman Allen?
I've got no questions. I had mine answered earlier. Thank you very much.
Councilman Gay?
No questions.
All right. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Thank you, gentlemen. That is unanimous. Item 7F is a motion to announce a millage rate will be set at a meeting to be held in chambers on October 16th, 2023, pursuant to the requirements of OCGA Section 48-5-32. The city does hereby publish the presentation of the current year's tax digest and levy, along with the history of the tax digest and levy for the past 5 years. Is there a motion?
I'll move to announce it with the understanding that I proposed originally the increase, or I moved on it. We all went along with it. The millage rate increase of last year, which was the first, I think, in about 12 years, something like that, 10, 12 years. And my intent was that increase be for a year until we could get our reserve up to a respectable area in case we got another hit from COVID or something else. I was hopeful that could be reduced at least to where we were for 10, 12 years. And this year, I thought we were doing so well that we might even be able to lower it from where it was a year or two ago. So I know we can't raise it, so I will move to approve it, announcing it at this rate, but I am going to be working and asking diligent questions about why we can't reduce it by a mil.
Is there a second?
Second.
Thank you, Councilman Carn. Further discussion? Councilman Carn?
No, I'm good.
Councilman Allen?
No questions.
Councilman Gay?
No questions.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstentions? That is unanimous. Thank you, gentlemen. Item 7G is a motion to amend the City of College Park Purchasing Policies and Procedures Manual, Section 12, Bonds and Insurance, to clearly outline the process when payment of performance bonds are legally required.
I'll move to approve.
Thank you, Councilman Clay. Is there a second?
Second.
Thank you, Councilman Allen. Discussion, Councilman Clay?
I have no questions. I think it's a good thing.
Councilman Carn?
All right, so Moody, this stuff we have in here on bonds and insurance, is this going to be part of the ordinance, or is this just boilerplate information in terms of
procedure?
Packet page 173, orange on the bottom.
Is that the, just striking that verbiage from the bond information?
Yeah, I see the one strike there at the number 3.
Oh, yes. We're just taking out that verbiage. We found that that was not relevant when we looked through the state of Georgia contract and other contracts, that as long as the bonding company has that A rating and they're able to get a bond, it suffices.
Okay, so this is our language. This is our code.
Yes.
Right here. Okay, I guess that's
It's
what
just
I'm asking.
updating the current policy, purchasing policy that's in place.
Okay, and the performance payment bond, has that always been 100%?
Yes.
Well, what are the options there? I know one of the big reasons why a lot of outfits aren't able to bid on stuff in the city is a lot of times the financing gets them. So is there any wiggle room on that section B here with the bonds?
No.
None at all?
I believe through state law, you cannot reduce it past that one. You can go up, you just cannot come down from payment performance bond.
The project has to be covered. We have to
Gotcha.
maximum coverage.
Understood. All right. Okay.
Councilman Allen?
No question.
Councilman Gay?
Do the city make a list of bond and insurance companies that we can refer to? Because I know growing up in Atlanta, the city of Atlanta went out its way to find bonding companies that insured a lot of disadvantaged businesses, and that's what got their start. Is that something we can offer?
I can go and extract a list and post it. That's not a problem.
Okay.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Thank you, gentlemen. That was unanimous. Item 7H is a discussion regarding city staff. Councilman Carn?
I wanted to just take a minute out to, I guess we got a lot of new city staff in here, and I'm glad that we got just about a full deck on board here. Our city is, I guess it's unique and extraordinary in one sense. It's kind of a puzzle to figure out. When I first got here, it took me a while to realize exactly the kind of, socio and economic model that we were dealing with was unlike just about any other place. I'll give you an example. Where I lived in East Point, we didn't have much company at our house. And I guess that's part of with your parents and the kind of house you have. And a lot of parents don't like a lot of company at home. There were 3 of us, me and my 2 sisters. A few doors down, I had a good friend of mine. Him and his brother, they had company all the time at their house. Why? Because their parents like to have a lot of events and parties and dinners, and they had a nice home. It was kind of a showcase home, if you all know what I'm talking about. And the kids from both houses, we compare notes, where I had my chores I had to do. I had to handle the outside stuff, raking the leaves and whatnot, taking out the garbage, and my sisters did the dishes and some other different stuff or whatever have you. And we compared notes to our neighbor up the street, and they were like, well, how often do you have to clean up and do this, that, and the other. I said, well, we do Saturdays and we do the cleanup. They said, man, we're working 3 days a week doing the cleanup. And I said, man, why are y'all working so hard? He said, well, our parents, they have a lot of people over. They have company all the time. Our driveway is full of folks, and we got kin folks coming in every other month, and all these visitors. I wake up in the morning, somebody's down there having breakfast with my mom, with my dad. And it was a big dynamic difference on the kids that were taking care of the chores. I liken this to College Park. Unlike our neighbors, we get a whole lot more company than our neighbors. You know, we're similar in size to some of these cities, but we're not similar in terms of function and operation. And for too many years, we have been operating along the premise of staffing and basing things on the city's population, which makes sense in one sense. You staff according to the size of your city. Well, we're roughly 14,000 residents. However, we're not your average city. You know, we swell upwards of 80,000, 100,000 people in a day because of the dynamics that we have. So this is our home. You know, it's the only home we got. And you want to maintain a healthy and clean home. That's to ensure that your home is working for you properly, that it's not against you. So if you don't have the capacity, the materials, the tools that you need to maintain that home, meaning this city, then, you know, you're going to get a decreased quality of life. You know, that means, you know, poor health, both physically, financially. But because we have such a transient population here, we get far more company than we're geared up and structured for, in a sense. Again, we're 75% rental, along with our built-in hospitality base, you know, bedrock and infrastructure. And, you know, I don't have to tell anyone here, but there are a lot of new people that are on staff, you know, 40 hotels and motels, the second largest convention center in the state and trade center. We've got two of the busiest Metro Transit heavy rail and bus transit hubs in all of the MARTA system of the 38 stations. We're one of the only cities that have 2 stations outside of the city of Atlanta. According to MARTA, you know, thousands of visitors each and every day. We've got a parking deck on the GICC campus, and I want the public to be aware of the fact, as well as Public Works and some of the new folks. That deck alone, that is one of the largest, if not the largest, freestanding deck in the state of Georgia. And according to Delta in Hartsville, it's generally full, which means over 5,000 vehicles. And I guess, you know, in terms of perspective there, that deck holds more cars than, how many of y'all been down to the Falcons games at the new arena and whatnot, World Congress Center? I guess most of us from Atlanta have been down there at some point, right? World Congress Center, that's the largest building complex ever constructed in the state of Georgia. Our one parking deck, that's larger than all of the parking decks at the World Congress Center combined. It's larger than all of them, the red deck, the gold deck, the orange deck, the blue lot, the yellow lot combined. And not to mention, you know, obviously, you know, our airport. Bottom line, you know, I would say city manager, we're a city of visitors and a transient base of residents in apartment and rental properties. That's the vast majority of how College Park residents live and visit. I mean, those are just the facts. It means that if we're managing and we're setting things up for our current population and not really prepared for the onslaught that we get every day, people wonder why there's a lot of trash at the intersections and excessive litter or different issues that we have, because we've got to align things up with the reality that's on the ground. You know, this is why we fought last year for a decent beautification budget here. because we get a whole lot more company than other cities. We get a whole lot more eyeballs on us than East Point, than Riverdale, than Fairburn. And you know, more visitors than any other city of our size even comes close to getting. I want y'all to get an understanding of that, hospitality, you know. And a lot of this is for the new folks that are here. We're the 4th largest hospitality district in Georgia. What does that mean? I want to explain it so we're all on the same page in terms of when we talk about truing up and looking at what else we're going to need. The largest hospitality district in Georgia is, of course, Atlanta. The 2nd largest hospitality district is Chatham County, Savannah. The 3rd largest hospitality district is Cobb County. Now, so that we're clear, that is the entirety of Cobb County. 345 square miles of it with 7 cities. Now, for perspective, the city of College Park is 10 square miles. 7 if you take out the airport, which we do not upkeep, which we do not clean, which we do not police, which we do not cover for fire. So 345 square miles to 7. That Cobb County district is over 30 times larger than this city. Population of 770,000 people. That's 55 times the population of this city. That's the 3rd largest hospitality district. And the 4th largest is little bitty College Park. So I want people to get an understanding of the volume of what we're dealing with. So we get more clutter, we get more traffic, and we get more infrastructure issues and wear and tear than the average city would ever get. So there was a time when we used to have over 500 employees at this city, and it wasn't for an accident. You know, we had that many because at some point we did realize we get far more visitors and transit population than the average municipality. And now the city is growing, more businesses coming in. We got more hotels going up. We got 3 that are going to be going up. We added a 5,000-seat arena. We got our public schools right now that just started earlier this month, getting more students coming in this year. And we have fewer employees to accommodate more growth. And I hope everybody's following me. The large multifamily apartments we got going up on West Fayetteville right now. You got the 300 houses going up at Hawthorne Station. The tiny development, we've got the GICC's breaking records with their revenues. The Conrack facility, a lot of y'all don't know, that's the largest consolidated rental car facility in operation today in the U.S., I'm told. About 9,000 spaces and counting. Because keep in mind, Conrack has acres set aside for a future expansion of Conrack. So with all of that growth, we got fewer staff, specifically in our hospitality-related departments. That's code enforcement, public works, sanitation, beautification, and police. And we want to attract a good development partner, the partner for 6 West, and I think we need to really start to look at this, and Stanley, I'm glad we're going to be looking at this, but I want to just give everyone in the public an understanding of the scope and size of what we are, because 10 square miles doesn't look like a lot to cover. But our dynamics are not what they appear. So it's just very important that I want staff to understand that, and we do have some staffing issues, and City Manager, I know you're going to handle them. I can remember a time when cleanup here, it was a big deal because we knew the kind of company we got. Public Works used to have 20, 21 buildings and grounds folks. We got less than half of that now. We're still doing a good job, but the capacity is growing. The developments are coming, and we're doing it with less and less. So I really just want to put that out there where we kind of understand where we are, not where we think we are. You didn't come into a city that has 14,000 people that you have to manage infrastructure for. You're talking 100,000 a day, some days more. So I just really want to make sure everyone has a fully realistic understanding of what we're actually dealing with and the dynamics. And we got to really start factoring that in a whole lot more in terms of making sure that we're staffed up for that extra company that the other cities around us don't have. So I'll just leave it at that.
City Attorney's report.
Nothing to see there, Madam.
City Manager's report.
Yes, Mayor. Let me start with an introduction I've made on paper, and I know some of you, if not all of you, have had a chance to meet our newest staff member in terms of the community building leadership team. But let me introduce to you in person Mrs. Brecca Carter. She is our new Director of Airport and Governmental Affairs, an expanded role. I'm not going to go over her resume and credentials because I've previously forwarded that to you. But for the benefit of the community, you should be very proud of the credentials that Mrs. Carter brings with her. And so the team is essentially complete for now as far as the leadership team, and we are ready to get underway for the Super Bowl.
Welcome aboard.
All right.
Secondly, Mayor, I have sent to you on Saturday evening the latest strategic performance report. It is the 4th installment, and if you thought we didn't have enough to report on for the 4th consecutive time, each 2 weeks that report has been approximately 50 pages. And the content is, I think, easy to read while being substantive and giving you, I think, a comprehensive update of what's going on in your city departments every 2 weeks. And so that will continue. If I tried to choose different parts, I would go on a long time. So I'm going to leave to your reading if you've not read it completely already, but also for the benefit of our public, we are posting it online, even though this report is written for the mayor and council. It is available to the public because the information belongs to you. So highlights of each department with images to help make it interesting, very succinct content. It is on our website. If you go, it's probably a couple of places when you first go on. New News, I forget exactly how it's titled, but otherwise, if you go to departments and city manager, you will see strategic performance reports, all 4 that have been presented so far. Each edition, I do take the first several pages to highlight topics of interest for the mayor and council, and that's where I want to spend the rest of my time this evening. I have referenced, including at the Ward 4 City Hall or Town Hall meeting last Thursday, what my vision is, because I've been asked that question frequently. And it's not about the city manager's vision, it's about the city's vision, that I'm fortunate to have inherited the work of this mayor and council in having put in place a strategic plan for the city of College Park. Makes my job so much easier because I know where the community wants to get to through the city's vision and certainly the mission that we are tasked with getting it done. But there's another key part of the strategic plan that really speaks to the employees of the organization, what I call the community builders. We come to work every day, but how we accomplish the work of the community is important. I am meeting with every group of new employees that comes to the organization. I'm in my 5th month. So I have spoken to 4 or 5 of the new classes of employees. And I speak to them about the strategic plan. I'm also speaking to those employees who have been here to let them know that this isn't just a job. You have chosen a career to serve the community of College Park. And there's a certain way of doing your job that has been prescribed in our strategic plan. And that is through College Park's values, our core values. And the core values of the City of College Park, just going to list them quickly, and I think Councilman Carn spoke to this. Hospitality. That's the kind of city that we are. Equity and inclusion. Advancement. Leadership. Professionalism. And harmony. And these are spelled out, not just choice words. We've got a good strategic plan, and we've got a good set of core values. And it's important that our community builders know what those values are and that they're modeling that behavior. One value that I think, for whatever reason, is not included in that set of core values is one that I believe as public servants should be there, and that's transparency. And I have sent to the mayor and council some of the research behind why transparency is so important. Now, I'm going to give one example this evening. Not to point fingers or to criticize, but to point out the importance of transparency, because transparency is important for every constituent of College Park, the public, the governing body, and staff. But I want to speak to transparency from the standpoint of the governing body this evening. And I could give examples of why it's important for the public as well as for community builders or employees. Part of the culture that I have assessed as city manager is what to do with information. And I think that we haven't gotten it quite right. In some ways, I think it's mixed up what is the governing body's role versus the staff's role. And my job as the head coach is to make sure that the team of community builders understand that. But the governing body, the mayor and council, in my opinion, are the most important representatives of the community of College Park. And I can't think of any information that they shouldn't be privy to, particularly in their policy-making role. So staff has to be troubled, or has to be careful, I should say, to be willing and open to give that information, to be transparent. We see a lot of information as professionals, and we're paid in order to make recommendations. and that's the key, recommendations. We have to be transparent in giving you all of the information that you need in order to make key decisions. And while it may be tempting, because we're knowledgeable, because we're experts, because we believe we know what is best, but that's overstepping the lines of our authority. And so we're going to be testing this, even in this first quarter. I don't know, I'm going to use finances as an example. I don't know at this point everything that I need to know. But I told Councilman Clay, because we had a conference call, Councilman Clay, myself, and the finance director, over questions that he had asked on the agenda. And the topic of the millage rate came up. And he shared what he's already shared this evening. I don't know at this point what my recommendation is going to be on the millage. I'm glad that you said it where you said it. But in a few weeks, I'm going to be bringing to you the most transparent set of information that I'm able to bring on the full picture of the city's finances. And I know you know the city's finances. You just read the financial report. It was just presented to you. But I've got an obligation not only to present information, but to make it transparent, not to look like what I want it to look like in order for you to make some decision, but transparent information that's easy for even our full community to understand if they're interested. So that is one example of why I believe transparency as a core value is so important. I need to be able to coach it with the staff. So I'm not asking for any action on your part, but I wanted to introduce it in the strategic report for this 2 weeks. And then I'm going to task the committee that even the city clerk wrote to you in on her report to put forth a recommendation of not taking away any of our core values, to add this key core value. And then I say to you in my report, not coincidentally, adding that T word, transparency, will give us a good acronym. Health. It's actually written within this section of core values of the strategic plan. So thank you for listening, and we will be coming back with a recommended action to amend the strategic plan.
Thank you, Mr. Hawthorne. Report of Mayor and Council, Councilman Clay.
Well, our city manager is a hard act to follow. Thank you. Thank you. That was very well said. I had only one thing, and it ties directly to Brecca being here tonight. Since early July, I have been working on a response to the FAA, something called their noise policy review. And I've been working on it up until last night when I forwarded my comments up to the FAA official government website for commenting on these kinds of things. It's 17 pages. Some of it, of course, repeats the questions that the FAA asked, which probably take up, I don't know, altogether maybe 3 or 4 or 5 pages out of that 17. So there's still quite a bit of material in it. It summarizes everything that I know from my experience here from 2005 about the noise effects of air traffic on College Park. And suggestions for new noise metrics. We have day-night level, DNL, some people know that term. The airport has contours, noise contours of different intensity around the runways and so forth. And we have different types of noise, and it's affected by which way the wind blows, and so on and so on. I'm not obviously going to go through the technical details of it. What I wanted to mention was that that is my commentary as an individual. I did not take the position of speaking for the city, nor did I take the position of speaking for Noise, which is the organization to which the city belongs with regard to controlling airport noise. And Councilman Karn is very familiar with that organization. And I do cite in the introduction my credentials, which includes being on council, which includes being on a couple FAA committees and so forth. I just want to make you aware of that. I'm going to provide that report to the Noise organization. They are supposedly working on a response. We've had a couple web meetings on it, Zoom meetings kind of thing, but I haven't seen anything at this point. I don't think it will be as technical as mine. Mine is quite technical, and so it's not, it's probably a different kind of report, but yet they may be able to use some of the material that's in my report. I probably will put it out on my website at some point. It's available to anybody on the government website I think they've gotten something like 1,500 comments so far. But it's identified very clearly. When you find it, you'll see my name on it. So it'll be very clear who said it. And Brecca, you're welcome to read it, what have you, whatever you want. I know we have to get together, and I need to spin you up on what the situation here is here. But in actuality, I pointed you to my website. I don't know whether you've had a chance to look at it or not, but virtually anything you want to know about the noise in College Park is probably in this response that I just uploaded to the FAA site. So we can talk more about that in the future. I know we were talking about getting together this past week. I've been working my tail off trying to get the report done with everything else going on in the city. That's all I had to say tonight.
Thank you, sir. Councilman Carr?
All right, a couple of things. City Manager, I want us to look into that tiny homes issue on Godby. I'd like to get a copy of that development agreement to see specifically what the language is in regards to no rental units out there. It's a successful project. It was pre-sold, sold out, I was told, before it was even built. But it is not a successful project if it violates the development agreement that we agreed upon. Speaking of development agreements, I had economic development before she pulled up the Rockland Homes, and I had a conference Zoom meeting with the fellow that was responsible for the interior noise contours and the whole nine. He gave me the documentation and information on all the homes that they monitored inside and out, bedroom and a downstairs room and so on and so forth. And he said all of the averages were under 30, right at 38 decibels.
That's what they're supposed to be.
Well, I got all the papers in my office, and I look at all of the measurements that they did, and all of my averages are above 40 decibels. And unless my math is wrong, I did averages, and I'm looking at the numbers, and the averages all come higher than 38 decibels. I'm going to give you a copy of one or two of them to look at, and you tell me maybe math wasn't my best subject, but it doesn't look like to me. It looks like to me the noise levels are above on average.
Are you sure they weren't quoting the sound transfer coefficient, which is what reduces the noise as opposed to the average?
Well, I got interior noise levels of in the 40s, so it did sound like interior noise levels.
Okay.
But if you, I want you to take a look at it and see what we think. But I also want someone can pull that development agreement to see what were the specifics in regards to the tiny homes. A couple other things. I attended the town hall meeting. Councilmember Gay, it was a well-attended town hall meeting. City manager, I guess that was your debut, more or less. You did a great job. A lot of the residents said they thought that we really got a good one this time that's going to last with us, and so I was glad to hear the vote of confidence from residents. I still have not seen that on our city website. It was a great event. I still have not seen our gun buyback on our website for some reason. That was another great event. There is still an ongoing disparity in terms of particulars, in terms of what's included and what's not when it comes to which council members are doing something up here or being proactive or having events in this city. It's plain enough for everyone to see, yet it continues. So we're going to have to figure out something about that. I want to thank our staff for just taking us through this summertime. It has been very hot, and overall, I think everybody's doing a great job. I always tend to look towards some of our lowest paid individuals, because a lot of the time, the lowest paid individuals do a large brunt of the work. Not that our upper management isn't handling their business and taking care of things that need to be taken care of, but if we're deficient anywhere, I think it's with our lowest paid individuals. I can go out to the convention center and there's some blockbuster events going on, and it's a great thing, and there are thousands of people out here. And these other cities would kill to have a convention center palace like we have out there to be able to do these things. And we got commerce buzzing. And I say to myself, I see the staff members working hard to make sure they keep things going as advertised for all of those customers that are coming in for those conventions. And I see the cleanup going on all throughout the process. And it's a hard process, but to keep it going, it has to happen with our lowest paid workers. And Mercedes does a wonderful job managing that center and taking care of everything. But on any given weekend, if Mercedes happens not to be there, the event's still going to be successful and go on because her and her staff planned it that way. But if the lowest paid individuals who are consistently emptying those trash receptacles, moving literally metric tons of trash throughout the weekends, there will definitely be a problem. And I just hope you're hearing me. One of the things I hear from our part-time employees in particular is that they feel like they should receive holidays off with pay. Holidays off with pay. I think the reason being is because that influences our harder worker employees and gives them some encouragement if they want to consider coming on full-time. Now, we only have a handful of part-timers, about 80 or so. A big majority of those, I'm told by HR, are seasonal employees that are part-timers, which means they're only here during the summertime, so there's only one holiday for them, which is Independence Day. So, City Manager, I want us to look at the possibility of giving our part-time employees some holidays off with pay, possibly. If we can't do all the holidays, if we can look at some of the holidays, I think that would be a good thing to do if we can do it. And City Manager, I want to thank you again for just coming in and hitting the ground running in general. Y'all, and I got to talk about this because sometimes you have to have the uncomfortable conversations, and I don't mind having those. City Manager is fighting a battle, I guess you could call it that. I guess kind of a tug of war, so to speak. And it's with his staff. And it is his staff. The reason why I know that is because we made it so. And it's his job to handle the day-to-day on behalf of this entire city. There are a lot of staff that still choose to follow the direction of a particular elected official. And I'll just say this. It's next to impossible to do that at this point. And here's the reason why. It's like trying to be in two places at one time. For instance, I can't be at home and be up here at City Hall at the same time. I got to be one place or the other. And I say that to emphasize this to staff. You can't serve two directors. And when it comes to staff direction, I have to point to that gentleman right there. There's only one person. And if you feel like you want to follow someone else, including myself or anybody else, I'm going to tell y'all right now, do not come whining to me about an issue or a problem or something that's going on. Because at the end of the day, you're going to have to take that up with the city manager. I'm not coming in to bail you out. I don't have staff favorites. I'm looking for staff that's doing the doggone job and getting to work. So, you know, we can continue along those routes, but I don't think it's going to work. It's not going to work. So let's just keep that in mind. You can't serve two directors, just like you can't be at two places at once. So either you're going to be at work at City Hall or you're going to be home, but you can't be both, if you know what I mean. So that's all I got.
Councilman Allen?
Okay. Just a few things. First of all, Ms. Carter, welcome. Welcome. This is your first meeting, and welcome to College. It's very hot outside, and we need to be cognizant of that for all of our workers. So let's make sure that they have plenty of water. Let's make sure they have plenty of breaks, because it's going to be in the 90s probably the rest of the week. So just make sure that everybody is rested. Make sure they have water if they're out there, Public Works and the fire and police department. Thursday night will be movie night at Zup Park. So 7 o'clock if you want to come by and see a movie. No rain. And I don't really know what the movie is, but it'll be fun. There'll be a lot of kids out there. So anyway, thank you very much, Recreation Department. This past week, got to see the fire department jumping into a swimming pool and practicing their training, rescuing people. People don't realize that the fire, the police, Public Works, everybody go through training all the time. It was great to go out and see them do that over here at the pool. It's great that they had a pool that they could do it in. And then you turn right around and we've had 3 fires that I know of this week. I mean, they're constantly moving. And again, as Councilman Carnes mentioned, you know, we need to look at staff. But we also need to look at equipment to make sure that we have the equipment that we need. So, and you didn't even, Councilman Carnes, you didn't even mention 6 West. We've got 6 West coming up, and so we need to be thinking about fire, police going on, and if we need a new combined facility, smaller facility, whatever, we need to be planning for that before it gets on top of us, and it'll be on top of us before we know it. Couple of things I think we need to be looking at, and I think they're already kind of looking at it, and that's limits on approval. I think the city manager has $10,000 right now. Department heads have like $1,000. And when you look at other cities, they're talking about $25,000, $5,000 or $10,000 for department heads. You know, if it's going to be bid, it's going to be brought back to us anyway. So I think we need to kind of take a look at that. And I know y'all are doing that anyway, but let's take a look at that. We're also looking at the TOD and other zoning issues. I think we probably just need to take a look at all of our zoning issues. It's been a long time to see if they fall in line with what we're looking for here in College Park. Your report, there's no way I could have read it before I got here, but I read part of it and it is fantastic. So thank you very much for letting us know what's going on in the city. I think that the citizens will be very surprised at seeing the detail that every single department goes into to make that happen. We still need to get some money for our recreation department. You can go online and vote. Please go online and vote for College Park, and we can get some additional money to help out. The last thing, again, it was this past weekend, I was running around looking at this, looking at that, and I thought, you know, maybe I ought to call somebody on this or call somebody on that. And then I got to thinking about it. And, you know, it's the weekend. And like Councilman Carnes says, our people put in a lot of work. We're short-staffed. They're running around. We need to be, as mayor and council and everybody, needs to be cognizant of what they do every single day. And they do need a little time with their family, to have a meal, to sit down without Councilman Allen calling or texting and say, hey, come over here and look at this or look at that. We just need to be, and I'm at fault like everybody else. We just need to let them get a little time with their families on the weekends and at night. And if it's something that's urgent, sure. But if it's something that can wait till the next day or Monday, we need to think about that and keep that in the back of our minds. And that's about all I have. That's it.
Councilman Gay?
I'd just like to have a few comments. First off, I too would like to thank the fire department for their professionalism and the fires that we had, particularly Lakeshore Drive. It was a hot fire, and y'all put it out, saved other homes. And the ancillary staff you had around you, I think I seen code enforcement out there, and so y'all did a great job, worked late into the evening. So thank you for that. Thank you to the chief who met impromptu with a bunch of hotel owners on Old National. They just sent it on her office, and she was able to deal with them and listen as well as make recommendations on how better to work with that corridor in our city. And then welcome to the airport affairs person. I think we met briefly. Hope your ankle is getting better. One of the things I would like to offer you is that since your title has been expanded to airport affairs, this came up by Councilman Corn a while back. At the atrium in the airport, if you go towards the end of the building, they have where they got the CITA badges. There's a large human resource department. I think about every business in the airport, HR is actually downstairs. And it'll be an opportunity for you to go and introduce yourself, because it is an opportunity to help our city find employment. So I'll ask you to visit those folks. Another thing is that there remains about 2 apartment communities, 2 or 3, that has never received a noise abatement package. When you talk about noise, this is a 1998 federal grant that has insulated properties in airport cities, Hateville, East Point, but ironically in Ward 4, the 2 found apartments has never been insulated. It's 2601 Roosevelt Highway, Avery Park, Charleston Drive, and Green Springs. Those are the only 3 apartments that have not been insulated, and Gary Young worked tirelessly with the leadership over there to get those done. I want to follow up on the comment about Rockland Homes. I want to comment about Rockland Homes. Rockland Homes started as developed by the Foley Group. Those 2 gentlemen were not able to accomplish that vision, so Rockland bought it in a friendly foreclosure. But in the development agreement, there is supposed to be a graded insulation that's supposed to mitigate the noise. I don't think that, and I support Rockland 1,000%, but I don't think that insulation has been put in those attics. That was one of the things that the Foley Group emphasized, and that's what their attorneys, and that's what we negotiated. So we do want to make sure that that insulation is there. It's a foam insulation. I think it still could be added even though people have moved in those houses. As well as the ceiling fans. That was another one. I understand we're losing Jonathan Betts. I think he's leaving, not losing him, but he's leaving. But I only bring that up to say he had brought the GIS expertise, and I think I think we can mitigate that by, you have to talk about adding CAD. I think we have an engineer who understands that program, so I think we can immediately jump one step up if we bring CAD to the house, and then he could train an understudy. Just a couple more. Thank you, City Manager, for coming to our town hall. Terrence Moore, your predecessor would always come, but he never gave us a report that you did. And I was asking the pastor sitting next to me, I says, he didn't know that we have a time limit. And she said, well, you know, he's important. He gets to say what he wants to say. I just stopped talking and listened. But you did a great job, and it was. I think people have a takeaway that you bring a certain level of expertise and academia to our city. Long overdue. I want to touch real briefly on building and grounds. We spent a lot of money on police and fire, which absolutely we cannot have a city without those services. But not having enough laborers or laborers 2, or specialists, or landscape supervisors, it's just like a cake not having sugar. I mean, we just, you know, you cannot have the kind of city we want with 4 or 5 guys, and then you pulling them away to bring in furniture and put up tents. It's just not going to work. And I say that to say this: we have to find creative ways to build, to bring more manpower to that department. Now, the late Jack Longino, his solution was to contract out Main Street. That's why we cut Main Street, because Jack Longino wanted a certain look, and I appreciate that. But we have other parts of our city, and they just don't have the manpower. So I don't know what's out there to do that. It could be salaries. It could be a buy-in. Maybe Building and Grounds feel that they're on a level that they don't buy into the organization. It could be a buy-in. Enterprise have college students with master's degrees because the family Enterprise, they let them buy into it. So we got to find a way to bring more Building and Grounds and specialists to our community. It's just not going to work. I got trees growing what's supposed to be shrubs. Yeah, it's not gonna work. So we have to support doctor's budget and find ways to support him. Just two more. I want to comment on the tiny homes. It was brought to us by Demetrius, and I appreciate you being diligent and watching that. And I'm not hating on the tiny homes, but I do want to say that we do have an expectation that developers do what they say they're gonna do. And you all beat up, I mean, you were almost about to kick Rockland out of College Park when they even threat of trying to do more than 20% rentals. But my research is telling me, and I could be wrong, I hope I'm wrong, but it's my belief that not one deed has been filed with Fulton County. I don't see, there's not one deed that we see filed with Fulton County, so I don't know what this is. Is this a writ? But it sure got a lot of, it's getting a lot of traction. I just don't want this body to be up here in a year or so and we facing some major lawsuit that we misled the community. And it ain't what it is, because let's keep in mind that that's financed through crowdfunding. That means you got tens of thousands of people that have ownership in that project. Now, I'm not the SEC, but I do know there are expectations. And I don't want this city to be caught in the middle of that. So we do need to have, you know, economic development or the city attorney. We need to sit down and make sure that it's doing what it purported to do. And then last, can't even read my own handwriting. I think that's it, Mayor. I do have one other comment. This election season, Saturday, I saw candidates campaigning in the park. Now, I understand that's a public space, but people come to the park to relax, to have family reunions. They don't come to be solicited to or lauded, because two things that get you in trouble: sports and politics. You start talking about politics. If I talk politics to my barber, he'll gap me. Two things. So we need to be respectful of our public spaces. We don't need candidates to just come into our parks, start throwing out leaflets and engaging people. You know, have a town hall. You know, rent a plaza. You know, go in your backyard or something. But don't come up on our public spaces where people are trying to relax. I don't even disrespect the park that I do love with my wife's campaign. Secondly, it's possible, and I'm just saying this publicly, that this will be my last 2 years up here. I'm only a 10-year man. I do 10 years and I'm out of here. But it's possible that I will leave at the end of this election. I'm comfortable that there are successors in our ward. There are people who have been diligent. They've been supportive of the gays. They've been loyal. And I'm confident that they have the same vision we have: equity, inclusion, and all the others. So I just want to publicly say that, and that's it for me. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Mr. Hawthorne, thank you so much for continuing to share those periodic strategic reports. I did my best to disseminate that to the community and share it via my social channels, and I know that even if folks don't get through all of it, it is a document that is rich with information and answers a lot of the questions that we hear in the community on a regular basis. So thank you to you and your team for your diligent work and just enjoying those updates. Wanted to make sure that we were clear. We are actually number 6 in terms of hotel motel tax revenue in the state. I think pre-COVID we were number 4, but I think some folks have overtaken us. But it's still very clear that we punch above our weight as a community in regard to our impact on the state level with our 35 plus hotels and the second largest convention center in the state. So as we move forward and being cognizant of the fact that we are a hospitality community, it is incumbent upon us to think globally about that and all different aspects of our operations. Wanted to thank the fabulous Recreation and Cultural Arts team for their efforts on movie nights. The Barrett Park one was so well attended. It was pretty phenomenal to see all the photos from that. And our Human Resources team worked very, very hard to get all of our employees through diversity, equity, inclusion, and belonging training. It was a really good hour and a half. I enjoyed it and learned some more about the people who support this city every day and just how we can work better as a team, because it's vitally important as we continue to serve our community. I want to talk a little bit about South Park Cottages. Actually, some of those deeds have been recorded, and also as a body, we did not say that there were 0 rentals in South Park Cottages. I believe we said either a maximum of 4 or 20%. I think, as I recall, I was trying to find the action item, but it was not 0 rentals in that community. So just wanted to clarify that aspect of it.
I think that's right. I just don't remember the number.
Right, but it wasn't 0. Thank you to Chief Elmore and his team. Councilman Allen and I really did get an opportunity to see what it looks like in the event of a water emergency, and it is always such an honor to see your team at work. Their level of professionalism and dedication to our community is just unparalleled. I want to thank Lieutenant Ganji for his invitation, and just, it's always great to see the team at work. So thank you, Chief, for the efforts of your team, and also thank you for opening up those cooling stations again as we encounter these extreme temperatures this week. And so for those of you who may not know, we have 2 cooling stations open at the Public Safety Building and the College Park Library. And so those, I don't recall the hours on them though, Chief, and I apologize for putting you on the spot here, but I do want to make sure that the public gets that important piece of information.
Yes, at the library on Mondays and Tuesdays, the operational times are 10 until 8, and then Wednesday, Thursday, and Friday, Saturdays is from 10 to 6. And community room, we have it open from 10 to 6 Monday through Fridays.
Thank you so much, Chief. Thank you for all that you and your team do. So on that note, we did not go into executive session. We have no executive session minutes, so we are adjourned at 8:23 p.m. Have a great evening, and we'll see you next month.